recording has begun. Thank you so much.
Great. Thank you, Arun. Thank you, Ashutosh ji. Thank you, Arun ji. Thank you, Dr. Raj. Thank you, Dr. Sarita, and many other friends. I just cannot tell you how privileged I feel addressing a group as enlightened as you. I am really not sure if today's topic may be useful to you, but I am almost certain that I am going to try to bring to your attention a few faculties of your mind which you have been using without recognizing, how important they are. So that is why I called this session, What is Grammar? So the moment we speak of grammar, we think of books like Nesfield or Wren and Martin or Panini or a hell of a lot of other grammarians. That is also grammar, of course, that is grammar. But I do not mean grammar in that sense. I mean grammar in the sense which is innate in your mind. You hear a Bangla sentence if you are a Bengali speaker. If you hear a Hindi sentence, if you are a Hindi speaker, and you know what is right and what is not, if there is some mistake somewhere, you may not explain, you may not have enough vocabulary to say why X is wrong. जब राजीव गांधी ने कहा कि मैंने बोला था या करा था, तो खैर राजीव गांधी बोले तो सारी दिल्ली बोलती है, but we know it is not correct because the past tense of karna is not kara. The past tense of karna is kiya. All of us may not be able to explain why, but there is a grammar inside our head which says that this is inappropriate, this is not okay. Or take a simpler example. If somebody says, मेरा लड़की जा रहा था, a non-native speaker of Hindi, in many places, gender in Hindi is slightly tricky. So many non-native speakers or, those speakers of Hindi who haven't had enough exposure have problems managing gender in speaking Hindi. So sometimes you hear sentences of this kind. And in Bihar, in my village particularly where I am, I hear every day, अरे उनका श्रद्धा जो है बड़े आदर के योग्य है. अब उनका श्रद्धा तो नहीं हो सकता, श्रद्धा स्त्रीलिंग है, उनकी श्रद्धा आदरणीय है. So these people may not tell you why unka shraddha is incorrect, but somehow some people who know Hindi know this is wrong. I'll give you another sentence. Let's look at an English sentence, very common, in South India it is pretty common. I had the good luck to live in South India for nearly 45, 50 years, and in South India it is pretty common. I can able to do it or I cannot able to do it. Now, all of us know it is incorrect, but few of us can say why it is incorrect. It is just like that ability which your mind has, using which you hold an egg in one hand with one kind of force in your wrist or hand, and you hold a hammer with another kind of effort. The two objects weigh differently. Though you may not say that an egg is only 75 grams and a hammer is about 500 grams. So similar things happen in languages or in music. When somebody sings Beshura, कई लोग bathroom singers भी हैं, They sing, but they do not sing to rhythm. वो tempo, rhythm, pitch, वो sur, tal, lay, you know, they are not able to maintain. Now, you may not have the faculty to say why it is wrong, but somehow your mind says, no, no, ye besura hai. This is not, this has not been rendered properly. That faculty, that innate faculty is what modern linguists call grammar. I'm almost confident all of us have heard of that professor of mathematics, somebody called Professor Noam Chomsky. He began as a research scholar in mathematics, but he moved into language and concluded that language is more than mathematics. Mathematics is logical, but language is more than logical. It has other things. So in a moment, I will also draw your attention to those other things. But just now, I want to disabuse you of your existing notion of grammar. Grammar is not just what you read or what you are taught or what you teach in through books like Nesfield or Wren and Martin or a lot of other school grammars in Hindi, English, Sanskrit, any language. They are one kind of pedagogical grammar. They are prescriptive grammar. I am not talking of them. I am talking of the grammar with which you are born, with which a child is born, so that under 3 years, or let us say under 4 years, from no language to an adult language like language is acquired by a child without any explicit tuition. No parent has sat down or no grandparent has sat down and told the child, today I am going to teach you passive voice in Hindi. गाय बिक गई, पैसिव वॉइस है. आग लग गई घर में, ये पैसिव वॉइस है. और आग लगा दिया, मैंने गाय बेच दी, ये एक्टिव वॉइस है. कोई नहीं सिखाता है. जैसे हम झूठ बोलना नहीं सिखाते हैं, लेकिन सारे मनुष्य की विशेषता, अकेला प्राणी है मनुष्य who can tell lies, who can tell things that have not happened. That is what entire literature is. So this human faculty of knowing more than you hear, knowing more than you see, knowing more than you experience is unique. You know, I must tell you in a lighter vein, at my home, we have an observation. When my wife makes a mistake, वो मेरी बेटी कहती थी, जब मम्मी से दूध बॉयल होते हुए गिर जाता है तो कहता है, अरे दूध तो गिर गया. हम लोग बॉयल करते हैं और गिर गया तो वो कहती है, तुमने तो दूध गिरा दिया या तुमने तो दूध जला दिया. No child is ever given a tuition in formal languages में हो भी सकता है, मदर टंग में नहीं होता है कि आज आपको मैं सिखाऊंगा हिंदी में ने कहाँ कहाँ लगाएंगे या कर्ता के कौन से चिन्ह किसके साथ चलेंगे. जिनकी हिंदी फॉर्मल लैंग्वेज है उनको सिखाई गई होगी, जैसे हम लोगों को सिखाई गई है. लेकिन जो इनेट सेंस है वो खुद जानता है, वो खुद क्लासिफाई कर लेता है, ये नाउन है, ये वर्ब है, दिस इज नाउन, दिस इज वर्ब, this is adjective, this is adverb, and if you use this noun, only this adjective will go with it, and if you use this verb, only this noun will go. That is how a child knows water flows but wind blows. No English speaking child is given a tuition in these things. और हमारे यहाँ हम कैसे सीखते हैं? इतने सारे संस्कृत में हिंदी में जेंडर है, Sanskrit has case markers, German has case markers. Who has taught them? So the claim today is that a human child has the biological ability, just as the fish has the ability to swim, the bird has the ability to fly. A human child has the ability to learn one or many languages. A child born in a multilingual community, I am aware of children who manage 6 languages at the same time. And since I raised my children in Chennai, they all had to learn at least 4. We speak Maithili at home, then Hindi at school, Tamil at school, plus English. If you go to places like Mangalore, 6 languages, Tulu, Konkani, Kannada, Hindi, English, and at least one another foreign language. And many places in Delhi, think of a child born to a Bengali mother and Malayalam speaking father, being raised by a Hindi speaking ayah in a place like Safdarjung Enclave. 6 languages: Malayalam, Bangla, Hindi, a dialect of Hindi which is spoken locally, plus English. Okay, and for the child, it is one language. And each language is rendered. The child not only learns language, the child also knows which language with which speaker. You don't have to tell the child now you can speak Malayalam with this auntie and Bangla with this uncle, or Hindi with this uncle and English with this auntie. The child switches. Sometimes, of course, there are mistakes learning. So I come back to the first slide itself. Grammar is another name for that innate ability in human beings which enables us to learn a language, and secondly, to use it appropriately, appropriate to the context and appropriate to the structure of language. So in the simplest term, I'm sorry if it is getting more abstract, in the simplest term, grammar is nothing but a relationship among units of language. Now this is, I must explain this. Ashutoshji, can we move to the next slide, please? Okay. Right. Can we go to the next slide, please? Okay, please here. Now, before I go to the units, there are kinds of grammar. So what you know of is a prescriptive grammar. If if any of my students pronounces the first word given there as professor, then I say you are wrong. It is not professor, it is professor. But if I wear the hat of a descriptive grammarian, then I won't say it is wrong. I would say in this dialect of English, this word is stressed on the initial syllable. Just as American and British English. In Britain, you do research, but in America, it is research. In Britain, you work in a laboratory, but in North America, in the USA, you work in a laboratory. There you do not say laboratory is incorrect or laboratory is incorrect, because you accept this. So there can be prescriptive grammar, which school teachers use, which people like me use to make our children's lives miserable. But there is descriptive grammar, which describes how languages are, like Grierson described so many languages of India. Just a second, please. Birla, can you see inverter आवाज करी छो? Ashutosh ji, just a sec. So there is descriptive grammar, there is prescriptive grammar. Descriptive grammar tells you what is right or wrong. But badal jaye. Descriptive grammar tells you what is right and what is not. Sorry, prescriptive grammar tells you what is right and what is not. Descriptive grammar explains. So I've given you some examples. Okay. If we had time, we could have gone into great details, but There is a tradition of descriptive grammarians from Panini. Panini, that is another subject. Someday, maybe with your permission, we can have a discussion on Panini. But Panini has been one of the best descriptive grammarians. He never said you must only speak like this. Actually, he said Sandhi, conjunction, confluence happens only when you speak rapidly. But if you speak slowly, such as if you call Krishna from a distance, you do not have to say Krishna ihagacha. You have to say Krishna iha agacha. So one of the first descriptive grammarians of the world, Panini, or people like Plato. Actually, in philosophy, those of you who have been interested in philosophy know already that all his life, Plato could not answer this question to himself. How is it that children know more than they see, more than they are told? आप उनको कहते हो कि नहीं नहीं फ्रिज में चॉकलेट नहीं है लेकिन वो कैसे समझ जाते हैं? आप कहते हो नहीं नहीं अरे नहीं पढ़ोगे तो कुछ गड़बड़ हो जाएगा, वो समझ जाते हैं कि नहीं पढ़ोगे तो नौकरी करोगे, नहीं पढ़ोगे तो मिनिस्टर हो जाओगे। कैसे समझ जाते हैं? उसी ट्रेडिशन में in modern times, in our times, there has been somebody called Noam Chomsky. ये लोग मानते हैं, these people believe that grammar is a biological ability. There have been, on the other hand, whom we have known as behaviorists, such as, Bhartrihari and Vakyapadiyam. Actually, Buddhist school of grammar says, you hear what you speak. But then they were asked the question, if that alone is true, how do we say new things? How do children make those mistakes for which they have had no exposure? किसी ने कड़ा क्यों कहा? किसी ने गोड क्यों कहा? He goad rather than he went. हिंदी स्पीकिंग बच्चों में भी अटेस्टेड है, वह जाया। किसी ने उसको जाया नहीं कहा, because he was following rule. If गाना गाया, खाना खाया, पीना पिया, तो जाना जाया. Exceptions come later, rules come earlier. So behaviorists are unable to answer questions like, where did this come from? That is why Panini's grammar begins with inventory of sounds, and because Panini could describe any single sound, it's a combination of 16 different features of voice. But where did those features come from? So Panini said, look, let us leave it to Shiva. So that part is called Maheshwar Sutra. In other words, using Chomsky's terminology, call it nature or nurture, language is a product of nature. Had it been nurture, we would all be able to make as many Rabindranath Tagore's, as many Premchand's as we liked. It is God's grace, individuals' inclination. Some people are good at abstraction, some people are good at description. So we currently believe that language is a biological faculty with human beings, and this faculty is unique, not there in any other animal as far as we know today. I'll go into that in a moment. But we also claim that just as human anatomy and physiology is alike, there are some superficial differences, of course. Europeans have blue eyes or gray eyes. We have black eyes. They have blonde hair. We have another color, and old people there don't have any hair either. We don't have any hair either. People in Africa have some different kind of color, skin color. We have some different skin color. But under the skin, since beauty is only skin deep, under the skin, it's all alike. So, what we know as different languages are different only in marginal features. They are nearly 90% alike. They all have nouns, they all have verbs, they all have adverbs, they all have adjectives, they all have inflections, they all have derivations. They all have two tenses, three times, time past, time present, time future. two tenses, two forms of verb. Then, some use tones more, with greater variety. There are those local differences. And it is the uniqueness of human mind that we notice significant differences before we notice significant similarities. There is, even if it is theoretically possible to have 200 different kinds of sounds, no language has more than 50 different kinds of sounds, and no language has fewer than 30 different kinds of sounds. It is all the difference of between about a dozen to 2 dozen sounds which make us sound different from one another. So today we are in a position to claim that we can write a grammar which can be the grammar of all languages of the world. We can call it universal grammar. And the faculty inside, since if you need a jargon, a term, you can call it LAD, language acquisition device. But then feminists contested, said, why should it be LAD? Call it LAS, language acquisition system. Doesn't matter. Call it lad or lass. Entire grammar does only two things. It gives you classes of units and it tells you how those units are related. How a noun can be related to a verb. If you have this noun, you can only have this adjective. If you have this adjective, it can only be preceded by this intensifier. All of those things are fixed. So you can write a grammar, theoretically at least today, which can be the grammar of all languages of the world. Of course, it's not all that easy. There are some hurdles. Let's go to the next screen, Asutoshi. Sorry, if you think it is too abstracted, I'm moving too rapidly. Maybe I'll try and take questions when we discuss if we have time. Okay, let's go to the next screen. Levels of structure. Levels of language is a multi-tiered structure. It has much more than you and I readily realize. Just as human body, even cell is not a one single thing. That is why in Kathopanishad, Yamaraj tells Nachiketa that it is anoraniyam, more than, smaller than the smallest, and mahato mahiyam, greater than the greatest. So if you break language into its component parts, you have a paragraph, a discourse, then you have sentences, then you have phrases, then you have words, then you have syllables, then you have sounds. Sounds themselves are products of many different features. Take a sound like first sound of the sound. You produce it from the tip of your tongue. And you can produce it only when your tongue goes closer to the lower teeth but does not touch it. Okay? Only when you pump a lot of air. But air should pump itself such that the vocal cords should not vibrate. There are acoustic features, there are articulatory features, and there are auditory features. How this sound reaches your ears, how these waves vibrate the cochlea, and how do cochlea translate each sound so efficiently that you are able to tell the difference between v and ba. Think of operations like civil aviation, a flight landing. A Tamil speaking air traffic controller tells a Brazilian pilot, okay, this is cleared. Go to V19, and he doesn't say V, he says V19. Okay, what mistake is he making? He's only making a simple mistake because V is not there in Tamil. So he does not let his lower lip touch the upper teeth. Both his lips come close to the teeth, but they don't touch, and that is why it comes out like a vowel. He says we. But the other side, the pilot knows what to expect. The human mind, again, fault tolerant systems, those who like computer jargon. So God's computer is a supercomputer. It crosses those. Otherwise, we will have tens of accidents on landing and taking off of the aircrafts every day. I have had the good luck to be associated with the training of air traffic controllers. And when I first came out of it, my only wonder was, or proof was, there definitely is God. Otherwise, every day there are 100 mistakes everywhere. But it is because of this faculty. So language has, it's a multi-tiered structure. And at each tier, there is grammar. You can only produce some sound after some sound. If it is as in sound, it cannot be followed by a voiced sound, a vocal cord vibrating sound. It will be either pa or ta or ka or fa. Okay? You can have a sphere, but you cannot have sphere. Some languages, perhaps it is possible. But there are these constraints which are called articulatory constraints. The point I'm making is language is an architecture created by units from very small to very large, from the lowest to the highest, or from highest to the lowest. And no parent, no professor ever sat down to teach any child all of them. But human mind knows what are relevant units at this level, at the level of sound, at the level of syllable, at the level of word, at the level of phrase, at the level of clause, at the level of sentence, at the level of discourse, and what rules operate. So grammar is nothing but the classification of units and the relationship among those units. I'll give you some examples. Let's go to the next screen. I hope I'm not too abstract, but if I am, please bear with me. Okay? This is what makes human language different from any other language. Language has dual structure. In the language of mathematics, you can say it has a linear structure going from left to right, going from beginning to end horizontally, and class vertical paradigmatic structure. You have to take a noun, then you have a choice. Shall we take animate noun or inanimate noun? If you take animate noun, will it be human or non-human? Can you say rock sleeps furiously? No. Inanimate noun cannot sleep. It is only animate noun. And furiously cannot be attached with inanimate object. So there is dual structure from each class. From noun, you have to take this noun. But if you choose a noun, then the verb is restricted. If you take wind, then blows. Water, then flows. Similarly, before the noun, that is why, those phrases have heads. According to head, which adjective will go? If it is cloth, it is fine. If it is smell, it is nice. You can say aroma or flavor, but there is a difference between the different shades of smell, good or bad. There is difference between aroma and flavor. There is difference between stench and stink. Okay, so all of these things are class bound. Similarly, there is linear. If comes X, then it will be Y. If it is Y, then it will be Z. Okay, why is this sentence incorrect? You can able to do it because can is an auxiliary verb. It must have the main verb after it. You can able to do it. Able is an adjective. So auxiliary verb must not be followed by adjective in English. It must be followed by main verb. You can do it. Okay, or you can say you are able to do it. But if you take can, if you take may, if you take might, if you take an auxiliary verb, then the main verb is essential. Similarly, if you take transitive verb in Hindi, then you must have the karta will ask for its inflexible sign ne. But if you take intransitive verb, then you don't have to say usne bola. You will have to say उसने कहा था. तो चंद्रशेखर शर्मा की गुलेड़ी की बहुत ही फेमस कहानी है, उसने कहा था. क्योंकि कहा is transitive, so it must be preceded by ne. These rules, both you know, vertical, taking from a class, and linear, what follows, what precedes, this structure is unique to human language. Other languages, as far as we know, there have been lots and lots of research on animal languages. If you are interested, one of the better books recently, not so recently, now it is nearly 20 years old or more, is a book by Gerald Durrell, Speaking Animals. You can, I'm not sure of a precise title, but if you just type Gerald Durrell and animals, you can get that book. Even those animals do not have this kind of variety. Okay, because they do not have this dual structure. It is this dual structure which helps us create new expressions, new, which helps us write poems, verses, slogans, a whole lot of creative effort is a product of this thing. So, in the language jargon of grammar, we say units have paradigmatic relationship and units have syntagmatic relationship. In simple word, it only means if you choose X, then you have to choose Y. But you have a choice between X and Y when you take them from a class. There is another thing, I did not mention here. Human language alone has the faculty of what we call displacement. You can talk about things that have not happened, which are beyond your experience. You can talk about things which happened 10,000 years ago. No other animal has known to mankind. No other fly or whale can tell another fly or whale. When I was your age, there used to be a little less pollution in the Pacific. But all old people like me boast of their past and tell their grandchildren, अरे हमारे जमाने में हिंदुस्तान में तो शहद की नदी बहती थी. So this ability to move back and forth in time and move back and forth in space is called displacement. And how does it happen? It happens because of a very simple feature of language, natural language. It is called tense. You can say will, shall. You can say may, might. Actually, even using present tense, you can use future. I am going to London tomorrow. Arunji is coming to my village later this year. Arunji, I hope I am right. I have been promising, I've been telling everyone. Arunji, and maybe Ashutoshji is also joining in. Now it is present tense, but time is future. I can also say past. Modi would be, boasting again after the next election. So would is past, but I am talking of the next election. This ability to move back and forth in time and in space is unique to human beings. So these two things, dual structure and displacement. There are, of course, constraints. Human child can learn a language only when it is exposed to that language. And it can learn any language it is exposed to. The child may be born to Indian parents, but if the child is born in Japan, the child can speak Japanese. I have a student who is a professor in Kyoto University, Japan, and her children speak Japanese. She has had to hire a tutor there who could teach her children some Hindi. And English, of course, is taught at schools. This is very common experience for all of us who have raised our children in quote unquote alien places. Okay. So children, all that children require is exposure to any language. To them, that is the minimum necessary and sufficient condition. Beyond that, no tutoring, no tuition. But without exposure, no, that's not possible. It's like a photo film. It must be exposed, and then you get that picture. So those limitations are there. But coming back to grammar, grammar is essentially a description of these two things: description of units of a class and relationship among those units. And this is innate. That is why you know what is appropriate, when you should say this, when you should not. कब हम बोल सकते हैं बैठो, कब कहेंगे बैठिए. When we can say please be seated, please sit down, would you mind, would you be kind enough to wait? And when you can say come on, sit down. Okay. Nobody teaches these things to anyone, or in limited scale there may be some teaching. That is why children come up with hilarious things, because social rules are learnt later. They heard their parents, the child heard its parents talking at night कि बुढ़िया केवल खाती है, कुछ काम नहीं करती है. और वो the child got up next morning and asked its grandmother, तुम खाती हो केवल, काम कुछ नहीं करती हो? So grandmother asked, how do you know? No, my mother told me last evening. The mother forgot to tell her this is, or she should not have, taught these adult things within the hearing of very young children. But children learn these things, these clever tricks of the adult world in no time. Coming back to it, they learn all these things, complicated rules of syntax and phonology and morphology and acoustic phonetics, effortlessly within the first 3 or 4 years. Why? Because, like the ability of a bird to fly, like the ability of a fish to swim, like the ability of a snake to crawl, the claim today is they have the ability to pick up a language. Of course, exceptional things are taught to them explicitly. When you tell them, they know that all Hindi words ending in long front upper vowel is feminine gender. E. There are 5 exceptions. Not ghee, not G, not dahi, not moti, not pani. You cannot say pani to Delhi में बहुत खाड़ी है. No. दिल्ली में पानी है ही नहीं, खारा या मीठा कहाँ से आएगा? 5 नदियों को लूटकर भी दिल्ली में पानी नहीं है. Please pardon me if I am being political. Okay. All of these complex rules are learned by children effortlessly. Okay. So there is culture and creativity, right? I think I have taken a lot of time. I should leave some time for you to ask me questions. So child language is full of such creative examples. I don't think anyone who has had the good luck to have raised a child sure has their own repertoire of wonderful things. Sense of rhythm, sense of language. We understand from the rhythm who is speaking what. When I first heard South Indian languages, I was about 25, 26 already. I thought they were singing. It's only later that I realized, no, their prosodic structure is different from the prosodic structure of Indo-Aryan languages that we speak in the north. And that is why you are able to sometimes experiment and come up, like, this poem from E. Cummings. Cummings had this habit of using adjectives anyway. So rather than say how pretty, he would say pretty how. So here is this is inappropriate. Know that because of it. Or when Tagore is reported to have said, looking at Taj Mahal, somebody asked, what is Taj Mahal? And he seems to have, he's reported to have said, it is colored copolaic photogel. is like a drop of tear on the cheek of time. Wonderful, you know. Sometimes children also come up with as adults do, or when you write poems, when you write satire, when you lampoon somebody, when there is climax or anticlimax. Once I was teaching a group of Chinese students, I thought I would show them some film to give them a good start. So I picked up a Walt Disney movie, Honey, I've Shrunk the Kids. They enjoyed the movie. And at the end of the movie, I asked them, well, guys, can you tell me what's the meaning of honey? And they all told me without exception. There were 17 of them, including 7 boys. Honey means wife. Okay. I told myself, no, this was not on. This was not going. Okay. So, you know, you have poems long like drugs, honey and darling, and love you, sweetheart, like drugs expired, hurt, give start. You know, some poet writes a mildly sarcastic poem on the on his wedding anniversary, on his golden jubilee, 50th wedding anniversary, saying that, well, we are still together, but the romance is gone. Okay, I think Ashutosh, there are no more slides, perhaps. So I think I'll stop here, ladies and gentlemen. You have been very kind to let me present to you the view from another world. And if there are any questions, I will try to answer, but I am not very confident I can answer all questions. So your views, your thoughts on the subject are most welcome. Ashutosh, please coordinate.
Okay, sir. I can see that Ram Pravesh sir has already raised his hand. So, sir, go ahead, please. You can unmute yourself, sir. We can't hear you. Ram Pravesh ji, we can't hear you. अब सुनाई दे रहा है शायद ना नहीं नहीं we can't hear you. आप देखिए वो आपका डिवाइस ठीक से इंसर्टेड है क्या वो माइक्रोफोन आपका ऑन है Oh, Ram Pravesh ji, I think will join again because there was some problem with his audio, it seems. Sarda Prasad ji. Go ahead, sir. Please unmute yourself. Sarda Prasad ji.
Namaskar, sir. Sir, before I ask, sincere regards and congratulations. Wonderful, sir. This was mind-blowing, mind-boggling, whatever. My language is not as strong and as good as yours, sir. I am
Please,
not so
please.
much exposed or so much knowledgeable in all this. Now the question is, see, I was observing my, say, let us say a personal world. I was observing my younger grandchild. He had some issues from conception. He could speak maybe after 2 years and a half. He could not speak. He could listen. So we were sure he is not going to be a dumb. And then he started speaking. And but he started observing the YouTube and these and that pictures before that, from before that. And now we are in Bengalis. Uh, his parents, the father born and brought up in Ranchi, Bengali. His parents are in erstwhile East Bengal. Their Bengali is quite different from our Bengalis of Gangetic West Bengal, Rabindranath or so whatever, Sharat Chandra. So, and his father is unable to read in Bengali. His mother, my daughter, left Calcutta in 10 years, after 10 years of age, but because of our prodding and some books at home and practices. She even now reads fluent Bengali, even now reads and writes and everything. Uh, this bacha, he was not speaking. Now we're in Pune. Her mother was outside, so basically mother speaks Bengali, Marathi, English, little bit of Deutsch, learned French also. I mean Deutsch भूल गई है, मराठी ज्यादा हो गई है, and Hindi. Father speaks English and Hindi, a little Bangla, but he cannot read Bangla nor write Bangla. And the both of the parents are working. So this baby is staying with a babysitter about 6 hours a day. Who is Marathi? Earlier lady was she used to speak Hindi more and Marathi less. This one speaks Marathi more and Hindi less. His grandmother speaks only Bengali. So now I see he sees YouTube, this and that. I started observing that how he's picking up words because it is only 6 months in his life of 3 years and 3 months. He's able to speak, picking up very fast, and he mixes words of Marathi, English, Hindi, and Bengali, and he has his own grammar. This grammar is not exactly like my grammar, Hindi grammar, Marathi grammar. Marathi grammar I also don't know. And his elder sister also was like that only, born here in Pune and all that. School teaches in English and Marathi and Hindi. At home it is Bengali and English and little bit of Hindi. But I observe two, three things. How this boy names things. There are some names he creates or the other girl creates, elder than her. Those are not existing words. His elder sister will put at the fridge, show me the gummy chocolate. You, Dada, you give me that, don't you? Huh? ये जो तुम्हारे पास है ना, क्या? मुझे नानी नहीं. So Nanini means this Gami Rogers. This is her word. Nanini. And actually we started calling it Nanini. So this thought that I understood that how she has not heard this word anywhere. Non-existent word. So, but there are names of things in different languages. Now I tried to read a little, understood nothing. Noam Chomsky is very इतना नहीं है, उतना beyond my. So नेटफेट में थोड़ा पढ़ाई करके देखते हैं and how his language proficiency is changing. Associations of names and words and verbs are slowly falling into place. And he speaks English. I know, like, I mean, look, this chocolate broke. And he does not know alphabets. He does not know ABC, does not know Bengali, English, Hindi, koi alphabet. He has now joined a play school. Goes 1 घंटा play करके चले आते हैं. He cannot read anything. But he's speaking. And he speaks with the nanny in also Marathi. मला chocolate पाहिजे. ये भी बोलते हैं. So I was wondering how he's naming, compartmentalizing in his mind. This is one, and I had a cousin, elder brother, who was a deaf and dumb. And he was put in a deaf and dumb school boarding in Calcutta. There are many boys like
sorry
that.
for interrupting, sir. Sarda Babu, sorry for interrupting you. What is the question, sir?
Yeah,
What
question
is the
is this. Yeah, question is this. Those dumb classmates of my elder brother, some cousin brother, they used to talk, exchange and play, communicate. And this boy is communicating to everybody. How is he learning? How is he learning? What is the process of learning? As from your talk, I understood there are lads, there are objects, there are relationships, but and from place to place, for humans, let us see, it is the sounds and words, and these are all dependent little bit on the biology of the vocal system. In this mind, when he picks up, it is from the knowledge stored in our genes or from where? This is the question.
Okay. You see, sir, we call it a critical period. Those who work in child languages, they uh, they acknowledge a period of language learning as critical period. It's called critical period hypothesis, which basically or simply says that during this period, child will learn any number of languages that the child hears. Actually, to you and me, it may be many languages, but for the child, it is one language with different varieties, which are situation bound, social varieties. Okay. So children develop their language. This is a developmental period. Sometimes there may be mixture of syllables. I'll give you an example. A Bengali speaking mother's child growing up with Maithili speaking grandparents. Now, in Bangla, you know, speak is bol. Here in Maithili it is ka. In Maithili, a child would say kahu, a kahe. In Bangla, bolon. Okay? But what the child does is takes the inflection from Maithili and a stem from Bangla. So Babi Bolu, when she should say Babi Kahu. Okay, I've just given you a gross example. Many of this kind at the sentence level, at the word level, at the phrase level. But once this critical period ends, 4 years, 5 years, in some cases it can stretch. Actually, things like dyslexia, dysgraphia are developmental problems at the most. They are not any deficiency in the child. There is extensive research on this subject which shows that given sufficient attention and time, each child gets out of this kind of syndrome. But in some cases, some child take time to speak. 3 years, the child has not spoken. I have a colleague in NIT Hamirpur whose grandson did not start speaking until he was 8. That colleague was about to break her head, and we would assure her, please wait. Similarly, some children lisp. If you ask her, how does your father go to office? Tabi tabi tal se, tabi tabi bike se. What she wants to say is sometimes he goes on a bike, sometimes he goes on a car. But because her velar sounds have not developed, she cannot say car, she cannot say bike. She says tal, bike. Or Maithili speaking children have difficulty saying kaka, so they will say tata. But these are developmental problems. None of these things is deficiency. The sutra, the algorithm is you learn, children are not making mistakes, they're trying. They use, actually, there are researchers who have recorded children talking to themselves, hours and hours of recorded. And you will see they experiment with all kinds of combinations, sounds, words, phrases, child language. To me, to you and me, it might be nonsense, but the adult-like language and acceptable to adults in each of these varieties comes only through this kind of experimentation or confusion. As they say, truth lies at the end of confusion. But each child has to go through this phase of confusion. In some children, it ends quickly. In some children, it takes time. Among some children, it starts late. Among some others, it starts early. Then because that is different, children are differently abled or gifted. In God's factory, we acknowledge there is mass production, but each piece is custom made. This is what behaviorists don't accept. And that is why behaviorists are not able to explain why even between identical twins, one studies botanical plants under the sea and the other studies language. There have been two German brothers, one famous scientist, the other very famous linguist. These are developmental things, sir. to give you a long answer to a simple question. Anyone else, please? I hope I have tried to explain, but if you aren't satisfied, we can have a conversation.
Right. Thank you, sir. Ram Pravesh sir, I hope your audio is all right now. आप कुछ बोलिए सर, सुनाई नहीं दे रहा है. हाँ हाँ, अब आ रहा है. बोलिए
जी
सर.
कहिए.
वो बीच बीच में कट के आ रही है सर आवाज आपकी. आपकी आवाज ठीक से सुनाई नहीं दी. आपका जो माइक्रोफोन है उसको फेस के सामने लाके बोलिए, जो आपके हाथ में है.
ओके, अब मैं ऑडिबल हूं सर?
हाँ,
ये
वैसे
अच्छा.
पकड़ के रखिए सर. ये पकड़ के रखिए, फिर सुनाई दे. सर एक सेकंड में एक चीज बोलना चाहता हूँ, जनरल, सिर्फ आपके लिए नहीं, ये सबके लिए है. रिक्वेस्ट है मेरी कि व्हेन यू आर आस्किंग योर क्वेश्चन, little bit of some amount of background may be required to frame the question, but kindly be very precise in asking your question and come to the point directly. This is for all the audience, and ये करबद्ध प्रार्थना है मेरी. Thank you sir. आपको वापस सर राम प्रवेश जी.
अच्छा लगा अगर क्लास में शायद मेरा सवाल ये है कि आज तक आगे में भी नहीं है चीजें अभी मास्टर में चार होता है, वो होता है, कहाँ पे नियम है क्या? आर कहाँ होगा, आर कहाँ होगा? इसी तरह से आई पहले लगता है, आई
सर आपका प्रश्न तो मुझे ठीक से समझ में नहीं आया, क्योंकि आवाज कट रही थी आपकी. आई डोंट नो, अगर आप वो माइक्रोफोन वो आप निकाल के और डायरेक्टली बोलिए उसमें सिस्टम में, तो शायद सुनाई दे.
जी आप डायरेक्ट बोलेंगे तो मुझे लगता है. माफ कीजिए.
जी सॉरी, माफ कीजिएगा, आज पता नहीं.
हाँ अब ठीक है सर, अब बिल्कुल
ये ज्यादा
अच्छी आवाज आ रही है. अब बोलिए सर, अब अच्छी आवाज आ रही है.
जी थैंक यू सर. इंग्लिश में मेरी हमेशा से शुरू से ही एक समस्या रही है कि दो चीजें बहुत है कि एक वो है कि जो उसका स्पेलिंग और प्रोनाउंसिएशन, क्योंकि हिंदी में है कि जो आप लिखते हैं जो अक्षर है वही शब्द बनाता है. यहाँ अंग्रेजी में शब्द सीखने पड़ते हैं. तो जैसे टीचर, सॉरी मास्टर, तो मास्टर में TER लगता है, बट मेंटोर में TOR लगता है. तो ये OR कहाँ लगेगा, ER कहाँ लगेगा, कोई ऐसा नियम है? उसी तरह रिसीव, परसीव, कहीं पे E पहले लगेगा बाद में I आता है, कहीं पे I पहले लगता है E बाद में आता है. ऐसा कुछ नियम है क्या जो ये दिक्कत ना हो?
ठीक है सर, उसमें अंग्रेजी के साथ एक मुश्किल ये रही है और एक प्रिविलेज है भी है उसकी. दुनिया की अनेकों भाषाओं से बोरो किया है और 18वीं शताब्दी तक इनकी कोई इज्जत नहीं थी यूरोप में भी. जब न्यूटन वगैरह के टाइम से थोड़ी थोड़ी शेक्सपियर के बाद इनकी इज्जत आई है. तो ये लैटिन वर्ड जब लेते थे तो लैटिन में जैसा लिखते हैं वैसा लिखते थे. जब ग्रीक वर्ड लेते थे तो ग्रीक में जैसा लिखते हैं वैसा लिखते थे. इनके पास फ्रेंच के इतने वर्ड्स हैं इंग्लिश में कि अगर उससे निकाल दें आप तो आप साइंस नहीं कर सकते हैं, रिलीजन नहीं कर सकते हैं. सिर्फ आप टेबल पर बैठ के मटन नहीं खा सकते हैं, आप मीट खा सकते हैं. ठीक है, आप पोल्ट्री नहीं खा सकते हैं, आप चिकन खा सकते हैं. इनके साथ तो इन्होंने दुनिया की कई भाषाओं से बोरो किया, भारत की भी कई भाषाओं से बोरो किया, और ये दिखाने के लिए कि उसका सही इस्तेमाल कर रहे हैं उन्होंने उसका स्पेलिंग भी वही रखा. एक उससे क्या हुआ, इनका प्रोनाउंसिएशन कोशिश ये कर रहे थे रखने की. शेक्सपियर के टाइम में पापा का प्रोनाउंसिएशन पापा नहीं था, वो पपा था, जैसा फ्रेंच में होता है. लेकिन धीरे धीरे पिछले 400-500 वर्षों में वो स्थिति बदली। एक दूसरी बात है सर क्या कि स्पेलिंग और प्रोनाउंसिएशन एक पॉलिटिक्स है। मैं एक लोडेड वर्ड यूज कर रहा हूं, GREAT। आप बोलते हैं ग्रेट, न्यूटन ग्रेट साइंटिस्ट थे, लेकिन न्यूटन के जमाने में ग्रेट बोलता था सिर्फ जो लंदन किनारे का सेलर होता था, टेम्स किनारे का सेलर, वही बोलता था। अपर हाउस में, पार्लियामेंट में लॉर्ड्स उसको ग्रीट बोलते थे, कॉमन्स में उसको ग्रेट बोलते थे। जैसे आप और भी FREIGHT को कहते हैं, ठीक है, और कई सारे वर्ड्स हैं, तो वो बोलते थे ट्रीट की तरह ग्रीट, ठीक। लेकिन डॉक्टर जॉनसन ने जब पहली डिक्शनरी लिखी इंग्लिश की, तो डॉक्टर जॉनसन को तो कोई धनी आदमी थे नहीं, बाद में उन्होंने शादी की खुद से 10 बरस बड़ी औरत से जो धनी थी, तो उनके पास पैसे आए खाने पीने को, तो उनको तो डिक्शनरी बेचनी थी। या धीरे धीरे पार्लियामेंट में हाउस ऑफ कॉमन्स पावरफुल हो रहा था, हाउस ऑफ लॉर्ड्स की ताकत कम हो रही थी, खासकर जब जॉर्ज द थर्ड आ गए, अमेरिका की आजादी मिल गई, तो हाउस ऑफ कॉमन्स बहुत बड़ा हो गया। तो उन्होंने पहली बार ग्रेट का प्रोनाउंसिएशन ग्रेट लिखा, नहीं तो ग्रीट हुआ करता था। वापस आइए, जब इंडिया में आए ब्रिटिश, तो आप 19वीं शताब्दी की लिखावट देखिए ब्रिटिश की इंडिया में, 1000 तरह के स्पेलिंग मिलेंगे एक ही नाम के। चटर्जी मुखर्जी तो छोड़ दीजिए, विष्णु, ब्रह्मा और शिव, इनके 30 से ज्यादा वैरायटी है स्पेलिंग्स की। मेरी एक स्टूडेंट ने रिसर्च किया कि हाउ वी लर्न स्पेलिंग, इस इतनी सारी वैरायटीज के बावजूद बच्चे कैसे फटाफट स्पेलिंग लिख लेते हैं। आशुतोष जी का नाम अगर मैं कहूं भारत के हर बच्चे को लिखो, तो पहला अक्षर हर बच्चा ए ही लिखेगा। हाँ, SH में गड़बड़ हो सकता है, बिहार में एस लिख दे, बंगाल में SH लिख दे, ये संभव है, लेकिन वो टी के बाद टी लिखेगा और ओ लिखेगा ही। कैसे ऐसा हो गया? कारण यह है कि इंग्लिश भी उतना स्पेलिंग सिस्टम इरेटिक नहीं है। मुश्किल सिर्फ ये है कि 26 अक्षरों में वो 48 साउंड्स का काम निकालते हैं। हिंदी में 52 साउंड्स में, 52 अक्षरों में 52 कॉम्बिनेशन में हिंदी लिखने के लिए कंप्यूटर को 350 कॉम्बिनेशन सीखने पड़ते हैं। इंग्लिश लिखने के लिए कंप्यूटर को सिर्फ 150 कॉम्बिनेशन सीखने पड़ते हैं। इंग्लिश जो वर्ल्ड लैंग्वेज है, उसमें कुछ उनकी एक फ्लेक्सिबिलिटी भी है कि कैसे भी स्पेल करो इंग्लिश ठीक ही है, कैसे भी बोल दो, उच्चारण करो, जब तक उनको पैसा मिलता रहे तो दे डोंट गिव ए डैम कि तुम क्या बोल रहे हो, पैसे लेकिन पूरा दे दो, उसमें कमी ना करो। तो स्पेलिंग की फ्लेक्सिबिलिटी जो आप देखते हैं वैरायटी, वो सुपरफिशियल है, बहुत लिमिटेड है। उनके यहाँ भी आपको 5 ही वॉवेल साउंड से, लेटर से 20 वॉवेल वो लिखते हैं। तो नेचुरली उनको किसी चीज का डबल यूज, तो हमारे यहाँ जैसे एक पत्नी पर धारी जो लोग हैं, उनकी पत्नी उनके लिए खाना भी पकाती है, उनके कपड़े भी निकाल कर देती है, उनको माँ की तरह गुस्सा भी करती है कि आपने ठीक से आज ये नहीं किया, वो नहीं किया, दवा नहीं खाई टाइम से। कभी कभी आप पूछोगे तुम मेरी माँ हो कि पत्नी हो? मैं तीनों हूँ। संस्कृत में श्लोक भी है, हाँ, संस्कृत अच्छी पत्नी का कहा ही है, करने सुमंत्री। तो इस इंग्लिश स्पेलिंग में एफिशिएंसी भी है और डेफिशिएंसी भी है। एफिशिएंसी है कि कम, छोटी छोटी डिक्शनरी में आपको कितने लेटर की वैरायटी है। वापस 2050 ऐसी चीज है,
आई थिंक प्रोफेसर चौधरी को इंटरनेट इशू है।
आवाज कट रही है।
हाँ, जाते हो नहीं जाते हो,
सर प्रोफेसर चौधरी सर, अगर आप मुझे सुन पा रहे हैं तो आपकी आवाज काफी कट रही है, आपकी स्पीच काफी कट रही है। सर आपकी, प्रोफेसर चौधरी आपकी आवाज कट रही है सर, तो आप थोड़ी देर के लिए अपना वीडियो ऑफ कर दीजिए, शायद बैंडविड्थ कम हो गई है आपके यहाँ, वो इंटरनेट का प्रॉब्लम। हाँ, ऑफ, वीडियो ऑफ करके तब बोलिए सर। हम लास्ट 2-3 मिनट जो आपने बोला हम कुछ नहीं सुन पाए। आपने बोला फिर मैं गलत बोल गया, ग्रामेटिकली रॉन्ग बोला, आपने जो कहा वो 2-3 मिनट हम नहीं सुन पाए।
मैं ढूंढ रहा हूं उसका वीडियो में कहां से बताइए।
सर
ऑडियो तो
सर कैमरा वाला जो सिंबल है ना उसको प्रेस कर दीजिए, वो वीडियो ऑफ हो जाएगा। आपके लैपटॉप पे टॉप
अब बताइए, आपको फिर से रिपीट करूं मैंने क्या कहा इसके बारे में। मैंने सिर्फ एक लाइन, कम लेटर से वो ज्यादा साउंड मैनेज करते हैं, कम लेटर से ज्यादा वर्ड मैनेज करते हैं, और उन्होंने बॉरो दुनिया भर से किया है, ये उनकी लाचारी है। लेकिन उसके अंदर भी एक सिस्टम है, देयर इज ए मेथड इन द मैडनेस। ऐसा नहीं है कि आप के लिखने के लिए सी और के अलग, एक आधा वर्ड है जो सी एच से होता है, जैसे कैरेक्टर है, लेकिन एल ल हमेशा एल से ही है। ठीक है, इस तरह से काफी मिला है। मतलब उसमें अगर जाना हो तो बारे में हम बात कर सकते हैं। आगे चलेंगे आशुतोष जी।
हाँ, अभी ठीक सुन रहा था, थोड़ी इंटरप्शंस हो रहे हैं सर, शायद सडनली आपको इंटरनेट की प्रॉब्लम हो गई है वहाँ पे बैंडविड्थ की। आप अगर अपना कैमरा ऑफ कर दें सर तो ज्यादा स्मूथ हो जाएगा, आप सुन पाएंगे हमें भी। आप हमें सुन पा रहे हैं ठीक से सर?
हाँ, मैं तो सुन पा रहा हूँ आपको।
हाँ हाँ, अब आपकी आवाज भी ठीक से आ रही है। नाउ वी कैन हियर यू वेल। सो राम प्रवेश जी, आई थिंक आपके प्रश्न का उत्तर हो गया, तो विल मूव टू द नेक्स्ट ऑडियंस। शंकर नलिन जी, आई कम टू यू। उसके पहले डॉक्टर झा ने हैंड रेज किया हुआ है। डॉक्टर झा सर, ओवर टू यू, यू कैन अनम्यूट योरसेल्फ।
वो आज नेट का कुछ प्रॉब्लम है, पता नहीं डॉक्टर चौधरी सुन पाएंगे या नहीं, और उनकी
आप
आवाज उनका जवाब मैं सुन पाऊंगा
मैं
कि
सुन
नहीं।
रहा हूँ, क्लियर है।
मेरा एक सवाल था जो मैंने जब आपके समक्ष अपनी प्रस्तुति रखी थी उससे जुड़ा हुआ है कि a child of 1.5 years, 18 months, as I was told by my parents, grandparents, that I could speak clearly some difficult words like Rishikesh, Tapasya. Where did I pick up those words? And how was it in were these words in my subconscious, और था भी तो उसको मैंने आवाज कैसे, साउंड कैसे प्रोड्यूस किया? ये पहला मेरा जो टॉक था उसमें आया था कि लोग मुझे तो नहीं याद है, लेकिन कहते हैं, मेरे पेरेंट्स आज भी कहते हैं कि तुम 18 महीने 1.5 साल के थे, तुमसे लोग पूछते थे कहाँ से आए हो, तो तुम कहते थे कि मैं ऋषिकेश से आया हूँ। तुम क्या कर रहे थे? तो वहां मैं तपस्या कर रहा था। तो ये जो ग्रामर और जो हुआ कि a child listen to certain words or languages and then he can frame his own sentences or express his or her thoughts. How did it happen to me? एक छोटा सा सवाल मेरे मन में अभी आया, और कमेंट आज के सेशन पे नहीं करूंगा, बस इतना ही कि अभी तो लगता है कि एक बहुत प्यासा आदमी समुद्र के किनारे चला जाए और एक बूंद पानी पिए और उसको लगे कि मेरी प्यास और बढ़ गई है। तो इस विषय पर तो भी बहुत सारे सेशंस की जरूरत पड़ेगी। थैंक यू।
राज जी, बहुत बहुत धन्यवाद। सो गुड ऑफ यू। पहली बात तो एक डिस्क्लेमर बताना है कि वी डू नॉट नो एवरीथिंग अबाउट ह्यूमन माइंड, particularly about the cognitive ability of the child. हम लोग ये मानकर चलते हैं अब आज की तारीख में राज जी कि लैंग्वेज लर्निंग बिगिंस inside the mother's womb. अब इसका एक्सपेरिमेंटल एविडेंस है, अगर आप कहें तो किसी में हम लोग शेयर कर सकते हैं तो बहुत सारा एक्सपेरिमेंटल एविडेंस, there is a lot of experimental evidence to prove that language learning begins inside the mother's womb. It's quite possible. And you know that, as I said earlier, children are created by nature or God or whatever, or by biological system, with great variety of talents. Some can sing wonderfully well. Some have extremely fantastic memory. So to answer a question like yours, Raji, my first and the most honest answer is we do not know. Second is I am speculating now. It is quite possible that you heard some words even when you were inside your mother's womb, and because you were that kind of gifted child, and I know other gifted children who straight come to sentences without going through sounds, syllables, words and phrases. They start producing one fine morning कि मैं ये दूध नहीं पीऊंगा. Okay. ऐसा तुलसीदास के बारे में करते वो राम राम बोलते हुए पैदा हुए. राम राम बोलते हुए हो सकता है नहीं पैदा हुए, but it is quite likely that he picked up language very early, like Shukra, like you know Vyasa. Okay, that is possible. So speculation number one, you heard some of these things, and because you were an exceptionally gifted child, the brain processed the necessary input, that kind of sentence, and that kind of sentence was produced. Look at the amazing part of it. It's a grammatically totally correct sentence. It's a totally, its tense is all right, nouns are in place, verbs are reflected. It's only semantic which surprises you. Semantics always surprise you. That's the creativity of the child. But I cannot definitely say that, you know, parapsychology or parapsychology is not there. All I can say is we know only as much about mind today as we knew about solar system in the days of Galileo.
Yes.
Sorry. Claims apart, including
It's quite plausible.
claim of
It's quite
neurosurgeons.
plausible. If I
Including the
can
claims
add
of
to what you
neurosurgeons.
said,
Yeah.
I just wanted to share, yes, that it is a very plausible and likely explanation, because my grandparents on maternal and paternal side went on a pilgrimage, Haridwar, Rishikesh, and then Char Dham, Kedar, Badri, Gangotri, Yamunotri. And I was born within 6 months of their coming back to their villages. Your explanation, very difficult to prove scientifically, but then it's quite possible. Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Very relatable. Very relatable.
Relatable, yeah.
Thank you, sir. Okay, so thank you, Dr. Jha and Professor Chaudhary, sir. Mr. Shekhar Nalil wants to ask a question. Sir, you can unmute yourself. Unmute कीजिए sir अपने को. शेखर नलिन जी. हम सुन नहीं पा रहे हैं आपको. आपको अनम्यूट करना होगा. आप म्यूट पे हैं. हाँ, अब ठीक है.
मैं एक क्वेश्चन रिलेटेड टू चाइल्ड लैंग्वेज. मेरा पोता है जो 3.5 साल का, 3.5 ईयर हो गया, और मेरा बेटा और बहू और पोता रहते हैं कानपुर में. ऑब्वियसली वो सारे के सारे हिंदी स्पीकिंग है, मेरी बहू भी हिंदी स्पीकिंग है. लेकिन अभी का जो एक फैशन चल पड़ा है अंग्रेजी सिखाने का, तो वो मेरी डॉटर इन लॉ इंसिस्ट करती है उससे सिर्फ इंग्लिश में ही बात करती है. ऑल्दो शी इज नॉट वेरी प्रोफिशिएंट इन स्पीकिंग इंग्लिश, बट वो इंसिस्ट करती है आजकल के फैशन के साथ. उसका नतीजा ये हुआ है कि बच्चा रहता है कानपुर में, नीचे जब सोसाइटी में खेलने जाता है सारे बच्चे हिंदी में बात करते हैं. अब इसको क्या हुआ कि जब 1.5-2 साल का था तो बहुत ही एक्सट्रोवर्ट था, बहुत ही मिलनसार था. अब क्या होता है कि हिंदी का वर्ब ये बिल्कुल नहीं समझता है. गो ईट ड्रिंक समझता है, लेकिन जाओ आओ खाओ समझता ही नहीं है. अब क्या हो गया है कि जो लड़का बिल्कुल एक्सट्रोवर्ट था बिल्कुल इंट्रोवर्ट हो गया है. एंड आई ट्राई टू एक्सप्लेन टू माय सन कोशिश करता है अगर वो जो मेरी डॉटर इन लॉ, वो बिल्कुल ही कितना भी समझाइए समझने का राजी नहीं है। उसको लगता है कि अंग्रेजी सीख जाएगा तो बहुत बड़ा तीर बन जाएगा। हम लोग समझाने की कोशिश की कि भाई बच्चा तो 4 लैंग्वेज सीखता है। आई हैव सीन फॉर माई सेल्फ, बंगला भी सीख रहा है, हिंदी भी सीख रहा है, अंग्रेजी भी सीख रहा है, कुछ और भी सीख रहा है। अब इसको कैसे सॉल्व करें, आई डो नॉट नो। सिवाय इसके कि मैं ये चाहते हैं कि भाई तुम हिंदी में भी बात करो, अंग्रेजी में बात करने के लिए कौन मना कर रहा है, बट हिंदी बिल्कुल नो नो जो है, उससे आई एम वरी अबाउट माई ग्रैंडसन कि पता नहीं वो इंट्रोवर्ट होता चला जा रहा है। दैट इज माई वरी। इसका क्या सोल्यूशन हो सकता है?
सर देखिए, एक ये दिस इज rather an unfortunate fashion in India. Lot of parents believe that their child can have English or good English only when they speak to the child in English. Nothing can be farther from truth. The least you can do is English is anyway all around you, on television, in films, in schools, in colleges, in media, on advertising boards, on computers, YouTube. All your child needs is a little exposure, and the child will pick it up. But why must you deprive the child of a language where you are the boss? You know best. That is the saddest part of it. But as you know, against Plato, we quote Orwell. Plato, all his life, Plato wondered, how do people know more than they see? And Orwell wondered, on the other hand, how do people know less than they see? हम जानते हैं सारा बात एक नहीं है। केरल में नारियल होता है, कश्मीर में सेब होता है। केरल में हो रही है, राजस्थान, अभी हमारे बिहार में हम लोग मर रहे हैं बड़ गर्मी से। But propaganda makes you think it is only one. That is, to say that India has variety will not make India a weaker country. But propaganda makes, so there is a propaganda for English. You must speak only in English. नहीं आई तो स्कूल में क्या होगा? फर्स्ट ले आएगा इंग्लिश मीडियम स्कूल में, ले चलो इंग्लिश मीडियम स्कूल में इंग्लिश जानने बोलने वाले टीचर्स हैं, चल के देखो। वो उनकी हिंदी भी बर्बाद कर रहे हो, इंग्लिश भी नहीं आने दे रहे हो। कम से कम हिंदी, मैथिली, उड़िया, तमिल, तेलुगु तो आ जाती। लेकिन stupidity has no explanation except one. If you don't use your logic, then well, you can use woolens in June and light cotton in December in Shimla. इतना ही है और कुछ नहीं है उसको। सर बच्चा तो सब कुछ सीख जाएगा, वो इंग्लिश इन स्पाइट ऑफ पेरेंट सीखेगा। अगर अगल बगल के बच्चे हिंदी, तमिल, तेलुगु, उड़िया, पहाड़ी कुछ भी बोलते हैं, तो बच्चे कौन, हम में से कौन ऐसा है जिसको गालियां नहीं आती है? किस पेरेंट ने बैठकर की वोकैबुलरी सिखाई है? सारे पेरेंट कहते गाली मत बोलो। मैं जरा वीडियो ऑन करूंगा, नहीं तो आशुतोष जी आप अपने होठों पर उंगली ले जाइए। सभी पेरेंट्स कहते हैं गाली मत, गाली। ऐसा कोई आदमी है जिसे गाली नहीं आती है? अब पूरी दुनिया में 4 ही तरह की गालियां हैं। You know, there is a grammar of bad words. Somebody called George Lakoff wrote about the universals of, he called it, please pardon me, this is a group of professionals, so I'm using that word. George Lakoff called his book F ing linguistics, where he said that bad words in all languages are only of 4 kinds. Okay? अगर आपको इंटरेस्ट है जॉन लॉकॉफ की वो किताब देख लीजिए। एक
कौन सी किताब?
कोई
डू नॉट हियर यू। कौन सी किताब बता रहा है?
लेकिन कौन पेरेंट बैठ के सिखाता है और कौन ऐसा बच्चा है जिसको वो नहीं आता है? इसलिए सर वो कोई चिंता की बात नहीं है, आप आगे चलिए। पेरेंट जो करते हैं करने, यू कैन लेट द पेरेंट्स डू व्हाट दे चूज टू डू।
That is our purpose. तो ठीक है। मतलब मेरा ये क्वेश्चन है कि बाद में चल के वो लड़का ठीक तो हो जाएगा, मतलब अभी बिल्कुल इंट्रोवर्ट हो गया क्योंकि हिंदी का वर्ड भी नहीं समझता है। हम लोग फोन पर बात करते हैं, वीडियो कॉल पर, ही डजंट अंडरस्टैंड वर्ड, और वही इंग्लिश में बात करते हैं तो फिर समझ जाता है। ये तो विचित्र चीज है। शायद सोल्यूशन यही कि छोड़ दिए, जैसे बच्चे जैसे उसके माँ बाप पाले वैसे पाले, हम लोग क्या कर सकते हैं। That's the only thing
वो
we
तो
can say.
स्पेसिफिक्स की बात तो
चलिए, ओके।
ओके ओके ओके। प्रोफेसर चौधरी सर, शेखर जी एक और चीज पूछ रहे थे, वो किताब जो उन्होंने अपने बैड वर्ड्स वाली बुक का नाम बताया वो दोबारा पूछ रहे थे, तो इफ यू कुड काइंडली
जी,
रिपीट
उनका
दैट।
नाम है, अब नाम है फेस्टिव फॉर जॉर्ज लैकॉफ, एफ डैश 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 ING लिंग्विस्टिक्स।
ओके
हाँ,
ओके, बाकी
बहुत सिर्फ टाइटल
रिकॉर्डिंग
ही
में मिल
उसका
जाएगा।
आपको इतना लगता है वल्गर, बाकी उस कुछ भी नहीं है। बताते हैं, दिस इज टाइपोलॉजी ऑफ words in words languages.
ओके
There are only 4 kinds of words. You insult your victims' female relatives. You insult their body parts, or you wish them harm for life or wealth. And if it is female, in some cases, there is the counterpart by one woman to another. So the singular is only with change of gender. Like you say, for example, somebody can say sister F dash dash ER, then the other party can say dash dash dash, both limited variety. Human beings are stupid alike everywhere. There is no great difference in stupidity. But well, wisdom is another thing.
okay, got it. Thank you. Kumar Pravesh sir, can you also switch off your video, because we'll be able to optimize the bandwidth. थोड़ा आवाज ऑडियो बीच बीच में जा रही है। नहीं सर, आप कुमार प्रवेश सर, आप अपना वीडियो ऑफ कर दीजिए, कैमरा ऑफ कर दीजिए। हाँ, anyway, okay, he has blanked out. Any other questions from anyone? Any other points? सर, प्रोफेसर चौधरी सर, मेरा एक पॉइंट है, और मतलब क्वेरी भी है, and it is quite different from the questions which have been asked so far. This pertains to the dialects I have seen in my childhood at home. आपने अपने टॉक में वॉइस की चर्चा की थी, पैसिव वॉइस एंड एक्टिव वॉइस की।
जी,
I have seen that in our local dialect, बज्जिका है हमारे मुजफ्फरपुर की भाषा।
जी,
तो
जी,
जब भी किसी को रेस्पेक्टफुली बात की जाती थी, तो पैसिव वॉइस में, लाइक आया जाए, पंडित जी आया जाए, बैठा जाए,
जी, जी,
या
जी, जी,
या शादी वगैरह में जब लड़के वालों को ज्यादा रेस्पेक्ट दिया जाता था, तो समधी जी आयल जाओ, बैठल जाओ, इस तरह की बात भाषा बोली जाती थी। नाउ डज दैट काइंड ऑफ tradition or rule of using passive voice to give respect to someone, does it flow from the British culture, or is it something to do with the um, feudal culture, or whatever the tradition that had been in the past, or is it just incidental? That's my question.
नहीं, ऐसा नहीं है सर. This is, just as you have gender paradigm, masculine, feminine. Sanskrit has 3, masculine, feminine, and neuter. Just as you have number paradigm, singular, plural, but Sanskrit has 3, singular, dual, and plural. So similarly, languages have honor paradigms. Honor, HONOUR. In many
Right.
languages, there are only 2. English had 2, you and thou. Now, thou also disappeared after the First World War. Everybody became
Right.
you. Many Indian languages are also experiencing that. In Bangla also, even father, Baba Bodun is gone. Okay. Similarly, in some parts of the world, there still are 4 paradigms of language. Honor paradigms. That is one reserved for the king kind of thing. like you said,
Right.
then there is the Minster kind of thing. Baithiye, khaiye, aiye. Then there is intimate. Isko khao, baito, khao, pio. And there is more intimate and informal. Bat, ut, kha, chal. Many Indian languages have lost the first two. Some have lost even three. Even Marathi, Punjabi, and stratified language as Bengali now. But Tamil still has Ukar Ukarango. Telugu still has Kucha Kuchandi. Okay. Chapu Chapandi. Okay. In Italy also we still have four. You know, in my part of the state we call it Maithili. With us also, when I go to my wife's village, I am given the treatment of like a king, you know, English language, if not from the core of their heart. Okay? खाया जाए, पिया जाए, पिया जाए. See the paradigm. It has little to do with voice. Voice, there are languages which do not have passive or active voice, but those languages do not have transitive and intransitive verbs either. They don't distinguish between these two. To them, that class is absent. All languages do not have everything, but all languages have words. All languages have nouns. All languages have honor paradigm. Honor paradigm may have four or may have one. That has little to do with honor. It is not the case that we do not respect our mothers, or we respect our mothers less than we respect our fathers. But in most languages of India, mother is tu, father is a. But in languages like Bangla, Punjabi, Marathi, at least these three, even that is so neutralizing. Please go on.
Thank you, sir. In fact, you know, I have not switched on my video for obvious reasons because of bandwidth issues. But like a student, I'm sitting with pen and paper and taking notes. It's so enlightening. Many things I'm hearing for the first time. Thank you, sir. Sarda Prasad ji has raised his hand again. Sir, if you have a question, request you to go ahead, unmute yourself, and kindly be brief because we already have.
Yeah, I
crossed
shall be
almost.
brief.
Yeah.
I shall be
Yeah.
brief.
Yeah.
If I have to request Professor Chaudhary that please suggest us some reading available at my speed over net, preferably free. Will you be able to kindly leave us some guidance? This is one. And the second is, if I have some more questions to ask after I read up something, will it be good to ask in the group or in person to you, or is better avoid it?
Sir, can we, if there is anything personal, can we exchange our email IDs? Ashutoshi, can you help us exchange our email IDs?
Yes,
No,
sir. Yes, sir.
I'll
sir,
be very
sir,
happy
very
to
clear.
help.
There is nothing personal, nothing like a patient's question to a doctor. It is about learning the process, understanding the process. Uh, I tried a little bit on net and all. The thing is so huge. I got very interested, as Dr. Jha said, कि प्यास मिटा नहीं और बहुत सुनना है. Only some reading suggestions if you can give.
सर मैं ठीक से आपका क्वेश्चन समझ नहीं पा रहा हूँ.
No, वो शारदा प्रसाद जी बोल रहे हैं. He wants some suggestions for reading in English language, and he said that if there is anything that you can give him. Sarda Prasad sir, you can communicate with Professor Chaudhary one-on-one. We have his phone number in the group. I'll send it to you
Please.
privately also.
No.
So you can send him.
This all will be available in the group. I will send. Not immediately.
Sure, sir.
Not immediately. Let me try to read something, and after that.
Sir,
Okay.
please.
Thank you so much,
It
sir.
will be such an honor. Thank you.
Arun sir, you unmuted yourself for some time. Do you want to talk something? Because you have not spoken anything so far. Sir, over to you.
Silence is the best way of appreciating it. Actually, I have no questions. I have, just like you, I have jotted down many things. I'll confirm, I'll read more, and then I'll ask him. We recall one of the best sessions that we have had was the poetry session. All of us enjoyed. This session was as delicious to me as was that poetry session. Thank you, sir.
Yes, sir. And definitely I have lot of notes and definitely we go through the recording, there'll be many more things to catch up. But we had this issue of internet in between. I hope the recording, everything comes fine. So we'll catch up with that. Professor Chaudhary, sir, thank you very much. And I will not be using any adjectives. Everyone will talk about it. So thank you so much. And everyone have a great day. Thank you. I'm stopping recording.
Thank you, sir. So kind of you. It has been a great evening for me too. Thank you. Bye. Have a good night
Good
and a
night.
great weekend.